Welcome to the pod, Dave. I'm finally glad to get you here with us in the NLC headquarters. I'm going to dive right in and open up with a question that a lot of our listeners and viewers will be familiar with now, and I know you are as well as an avid listener of the podcast. So I'm going to kick off with inspiration. Who provided inspiration to you that got you into running, or certainly the running and trekking challenges that you undertake these days?
Yeah, so I didn't really get sort of inspired by a certain person, probably more of a process from my younger days. Probably sort of inspired more from the torment and like the bullying I sort of experienced in my younger days. So that sort of inspired me to become a better, stronger, fitter person. And just
amazing. I think I want to touch on that, on your background when we get there. But I think you're the first person who's probably mentioned something like that, rather than it being a person. You've actually, it's more of a situation that's got you into something. So we'll go on to kind of what childhood life looked like and as you grew up. But why exercise? Why physical exercise? Why did you choose that route for the inspiration?
Yeah, so again, from being bullied and things like that, you feel like you're a weak sort of individual, so a weak person. So just wanting to make myself stronger and fitter, and just sort of prove to myself that I can do sort of things and not be judged by other people. And they make you feel a bit smaller and sort of less, not worthwhile, if you know what I mean. So to prove to myself I can be a better person and not be the person what the bullies were trying to make me out to be.
Well, they've certainly succeeded in one thing, getting you to be a stronger, physically and mentally, I think in all departments, a stronger person. But I think running itself and challenges on the whole with endurance sports, we talk a lot not just about running but triathlon, and we'll go into the spine about how that is more than just a test of running endurance. But I think it does test us mentally and physically as well. And I know everyone, who goes out on these challenges will have some mental demons, whether it's on a marathon course, whether it's trail course, even on the shorter distance on the track. We do question ourselves at times, but I know for you in particular, overcoming those obstacles and really, I guess, achieving things that people maybe didn't think were possible is testament to yourself and the effort you've put in. So let's go back to the start then, Dave, because obviously I know you really well. You're an athlete, a coach, and I want to kind of mention that to the audience. I've coached Dave now for just under 2 years, and I love supporting him as an athlete. He's one of my extreme athletes, I'd say, in a sense of the challenges that he undertakes, which I find absolutely fascinating. But obviously our viewers and listeners don't know much about your background, Dave, and I always think it's better to come from you. So where did you grow up? Where did that start? What did younger life look like? And then how did you get into running eventually?
Yeah, so I'm from a little village in sort of West Yorkshire. So I was brought up at home with my parents. I was brought up a little bit in a hiking sort of background, because my parents were both hikers and things like that. So from an early age, I probably suffered from the bullying and the tormentors and things like that, and it probably grew more and more. Probably to when I was sort of maybe 18 years old. So I was sort of bullied quite later on in life, if you know what I mean. So then I went down the line of I went into the martial arts sort of world because I wanted to sort of look after myself and not get bullied anymore and tormented and things like that. I still do that now. I've been doing it for 30 odd years in martial arts. So I started that, and then from there, I always enjoyed the endurance side of things, the fitness and things like that. I didn't really start running when I was doing the martial arts, more shorter things for that sort of sport. So I was doing that, and then I eventually turned professional as a fighter, as a mixed martial artist. So that was like a big goal to me, to prove to myself that I could sort of stand up and look after myself, and to prove to the others that I'm not that person who they thought I were, if you know what I mean. So that was a big goal for me to be able to turn professional as something what earlier on in life I sort of got bullied for, if you know what I mean. So I did the martial arts and things like that, and then in 2011 that's when I started sort of endurance events. So the first experience of my running sort of background were the sort of track, sort of 6 hour, 12 hour, 24 hour endurance events. So instead of going for a nice easy 10k, I started off with like 24-hour events.
As you do.
So I did that, and then from there I fell in love with sort of trail running then, and then it eventually turned into the ultra running and the hiking. I still love the hiking.
And you do a lot of guiding to this day. Obviously, your day job is something that you love. It's outdoor, it's adventures. You do a lot of guiding. You've got your own company that's set up and established.
Yes, I've got my own company. So yes, I do love my running, but I probably prefer my hiking more, to be honest with you, than running. But I like the running to be able to challenge myself and to test myself, test the mindset and things like that. But I just love everything outdoors, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why you're so suited to these longer challenges, because there's a lot of hiking involved, power hiking and going deep and getting yourself through. But I always think the people who perform the best in those environments are often the ones who appreciate where they are, and they love the mountains, they love nature. And yes, it's a challenge, but when it gets tough, they really understand their why and why they're there. One person we've not spoken about yet, again, we'll mention a lot more when we go into the spine, is, as you like to call her, your lovely lady, your other half.
My good lady.
Amanda. So when did yourself and Amanda meet, and how did that come about?
So I met Amanda when she was 15. I was 17. So yeah, we sort of met in his younger days. So we just sort of met when you're kids, you're just hanging around in groups and things like that, and we just sort of got together then. We've been together 32 years now, so...
Wow.
Yeah, childhood sweethearts.
I would say people get less for life these days than that. I don't know if that's an insult towards yourself or Amanda, though. But somebody said that to me when Gemma and I had been together for 19 years. And like, oh, you must be doing well. But yeah, 32 years. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
And I know you're a special couple, both of you. And just to kind of give the listeners a bit of a background, Amanda is also going to be taking part in a challenge, the other side of Christmas, which we're going to talk about in a little while, because I want this podcast to be about not just you as a person, but the challenges that you both undertake, and give people a real insight into what those challenges look like, because they are fascinating. And I know people look at them on social media and they can kind of see what they're like, but really until you get that in-depth insight from somebody, I don't think people can truly appreciate what they are. So we'll go deep on the spine when we get there. What I do want to say, though, Dave, is thank you very much for being so open and honest about your past as well. I know that must be quite tricky, and you said there was some kind of self-accomplishment when you turned pro as a mixed martial art fighter, and you still do that to this day as well as part of your training. If you don't mind me asking, and going back to those points, what was it that these bullies were, giving you grief for? What were they tormenting you for? Because I often think when we get older, we see it as quite almost like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter now. But at the time, it's so impactful, isn't it? The hurt they're causing on people.
Yeah, so again, I think later on in the high school years, I think just hanging around in different groups. I was probably in the less sort of popular sort of groups. Obviously, they get picked on by the well-known sort of people in the school, don't they? You know what I mean? They just pick on you, don't they?
The cool kids, they think they're cool kids.
Yeah. So I was probably classed as being uncool and things like that, and they're just you're an easy target at school, aren't you? You used to mean kids are cruel, aren't they? So from there, and you used to mean so because it was so sort of bad. I wanted to sort of change the group of kids always hanging around. I wanted to hang around with the so-called bullies, if you know what I mean. So I was sort of in their sort of gang, you know what I mean. So that's when I started taking drugs and things. I started taking drugs on purpose so I could just be in their sort of gang, if you know what I mean, be involved with those. I used to beat myself up. So you know what I mean. So if I bumped into the so-called bullies, you know what I mean. I was thinking to myself, if I look like I've already been beaten up or things like that, they'd leave me alone. So I would physically sort of harm myself, if you know what I mean, just to stop the bullying, if you know what I mean.
So there was an element of trying to fit in.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
them.
that's it. Yeah,
Trying to fit in, get in the crowd to stop that. And thinking of everything you could to almost prevent that. Do you look back now and because I feel like we all mature, and I certainly think that when I went to university, I became what I call more cultured. Surround myself with like better people, and I realised a lot of those people who maybe looked cool at school or tried to be cool, they become a lot more insignificant. Not that they are insignificant in their world, they just become a lot more insignificant to me. But at school, as you quite rightly point out, they seem like they're almost like the top dollar. They are the people that everybody looks up to, despite maybe they shouldn't do. People shouldn't look up to them. But I do feel like it goes full circle, and hopefully now, do you feel like they maybe look at you and think, God, look what he's gone on to achieve?
Well, it does, yeah, because I see the bullies now these days just walking around, and a lot of them are down and out. So, you know what I mean, it has gone full circle. When I was into my martial arts and the fighting, I used to see them at the gyms and things, and they want to be your best buddy.
Yeah, interesting.
You know, because I'm sort of doing well and things like that, and they all want to be your friend then, don't they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just waste of time.
But your circle then very much changed. So from wanting to be in that crowd, you then took yourself out of that crowd.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
found more positive people.
Yeah. So as soon as I started doing the martial arts training, I started changing my life completely. So I stopped the drinking, the smoking, the drugs, and everything, and just concentrated on the fitness. But you know what I mean? But because of the past, I did get addicted to the fitness. Then it sort of took over my life. So I was wanting to just do the fitness, and when I started running in 2011, all I wanted to do was run. You know what I mean? Which is quite a bad thing because I was again addicted to it, and I didn't really want anything to do with my family. I was sort of wanting to go out running. You know what I mean? I was sort of ignoring my daughter and my wife, and I was just going out running. That's all I was doing.
What I find fascinating about this, it's interesting how these podcasts come around, and maybe subconsciously this is why I've booked this podcast in with you. I was listening to a podcast recently, similar story where there was a young guy who he's become a very good trail and ultra runner, and similar to yourself, he loves going longer, and longer the better. And he had some problems. Well, he actually had a drug addiction in the end, and ended up in rehab. And the podcast host said to him, "It's interesting because you seem like you're always running away from your troubles. But by running away from your troubles, you're running into kind of new avenues as well. You're finding new things. And is that what it felt like with running? You were running away from your past and kind of running into something new." Yes.
So when I did start running, I was sort of running away from my problems and things like that. I'm not now. You know what I mean? I'm not really bothered about the past and things now. But before I was running away. So sometimes I used to tell Amanda I was going out running on the fells, and I wasn't. I would just sort of sat on the fells, sort of crying to myself for like hours on end, and then just walking back home. And Amanda thought I'd gone out for a long sort of run or something like that. But yeah, that's what I used to be like back in the day, and probably because the addiction to exercise, you know what I mean, it got so much. I just, you know what I mean, you know what I mean, before sort of work, I'd go and run like a half marathon, then after work, I'd just go and run a marathon back home. I was doing that every day, just every day. But I was getting home, and I was just sort of not really bothered about my family, if you know what I mean, just... just going to sleep and then waking up and going running again and just doing that day in, day out, if you know what I mean. But
and that's what I find fascinating. Again, thanks for being so open and honest about it, because this is what makes these conversations so interesting, but it requires somebody being so open and honest about it. But the guy on the podcast was saying the same thing. He almost became so addicted with the running. He was on a running streak, still is, but he was kind of forgetting about everything else. But then eventually you realise hang on a
Yeah.
sec,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
now in control of this, and
Yeah, yeah.
but we do have addictive personalities, don't
Yeah,
we?
yeah, yeah,
We do,
yeah,
and exercise becomes our drug,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
and that can be a good thing, and it can also be a bad thing at certain times.
Yeah, and it used to be similar to when I was doing the fighting, the martial arts and things, and because from my younger days, you know what I mean, being bullied and things, and then when I started turning pro fighting, you know what I mean, you start feeling a stronger, more very confident person then, and I was getting addicted to the training in the martial arts, the weight training. I got addicted to growth hormones. You know what I mean? I just wanted to get bigger and stronger and just feel more confident.
Yeah.
But that's just from the past, you see. You know what I mean? Just changing the way I was.
So those thoughts, the past, are influencing your decisions, and maybe not the best decisions, but at the time you think they are, don't you? Because
we do,
you're trying to become bigger and stronger, and
do,
again, everything's related back to that bullying cycle.
It is, yeah.
Well, it's great to hear that, like you say, things have gone full circle, and it is interesting to, hear you say that eventually the people who were the ones bullying eventually want to become like your best pal, when then all of a sudden they want to fit in because they see you as being the cool character.
Exactly,
I do feel like at the moment there's a boom, particularly in trail running, ultra running, and it is seen to be a lot cooler. People do look up to people who are taking on these crazy challenges. We look at what happened this year with like the Barclays, the Barclay Marathon, and the first ever female finisher of the Barclay Marathon, and people look up to those people now.
Yeah, of course they do.
They're not seen as nutcases anymore. Everybody wants to go and do it.
Yeah, they do.
So these challenges are becoming a bit more popular. You mentioned that you dive straight into things like 24-hour races and 6-hour track races, and but you have played around with different distances as well, haven't you?
Yeah, different distances. Yeah.
So what would you say is kind of your favourite type of challenge, Dave? Oh, I'm going to actually phrase this in two ways. What's your favourite? But what do you actually find the hardest? Because I have a feeling that might be different to the average Joe.
Yeah. So my favourite sort of easier distance for me is the long stuff, the long sort of gnarly, sort of bog trotting sort of runs like so. And the harder things for me, probably the shorter, faster things. You know what I mean? I always think a fast 10Ks. I'd rather go and run a 50 miler. If you know what I mean? So the easiest, my favourite ones are the distance because I seem to get better the further I go. And I've always struggled with the fast ones.
So that's what I thought would have been different. Knowing you, obviously, I kind of set that up a little bit there. I was a bit cheeky, but for our listeners and viewers, a lot of those people will be thinking, what? That's mad. Doing a 10K is so easy compared to 50-miler bog trotting. But it shows we're all different. And we all have our own, I guess, quirks. But also we are just sometimes a little bit more suited to different things. And your speciality is going longer and finding these tough challenges. I guess, in my opinion, in the UK, there's not much come tougher than the Spine, the Spine race, which is a race that you have become very familiar with. But again, I'd like you to enlighten people. What is the Spine? So imagine people have never heard of it before. The Winter Spine I'm referring to. So what is the Winter Spine before we go into the details about your Winter Spines?
So the Winter Spine race, it's a 260-mile run up the Pennine Way, so starting from a little village in Edale in the Peak District, and you've got 7 days to reach the borders of Scotland in Kirkhead. So it's a self-sufficient race, so you have to carry all your kit, your sleep system, your cook system, all your clothing, medical kit, everything like that. There is sort of checkpoints and feed stations every 50 miles, but that is 50 miles in winter, so it is still a long way to survive by yourself. So you have to be quite savvy in the outdoors, be able to look after yourselves.
So if it's not tough enough, so 260 miles, they call it the Spine because it's the spine of the UK, isn't it? Runs right up the middle, as you say, from the Peak District. And if you've never been to Edale, by the way, it is a lovely little village. And we spent some time together there on a trek, which was a birthday present of mine from Gemma, my lovely lady. And Dave, Gemma and I camped out in a shooting hut in the middle of the peaks one night, which was fantastic, just sleeping under the stars. But Edale all the way up to Scotland, and you do that, like you say, there is a cut-off. It's a 7-day cut-off.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't tough enough, the reason it's called the winter spine is because when does it start, Dave?
So it starts in January, so you've got the weather to cope with as well.
And the weather is, I guess, you don't really get an appreciation for the weather, I don't think, when you live in towns and cities, because what we experience in the towns and cities can be very different to what you find up on the mountains, can't you, in the fells. And I remember last year in particular, I think, did they have to reroute at one point because the weather had got too bad, so they had to stop people?
Yeah, so last year was before, after the Hawes, after the 110-mile mark, that's where the Challenger South finishes. You go up your next sort of lumpy sort of hill, as I call them. They're not really mountains. So you go up Grey Shunner Fell, and that's where they sort of stopped the race, Grey Shunner Fell, but they stopped it after we left. So we ended up going up Grey Shunner Fell in a proper full-on blizzard, which were quite dramatic.
I bet it was. And that's like a challenge in itself, isn't it? All these different weather conditions, because I also looked at some of the photos. The sun came out during the day, looked beautiful and crisp, and a nice winter's morning. So like 1 minute you're prepared for that, next minute you've got blizzards, and you're facing that challenge. You've got to go through the night. You've got to sleep. Sometimes people sleep out there on the mountain, don't they?
Yeah, of course we do. Yeah.
So after knowing all that about the race, my first question is, and I'm sure a lot of people at home are thinking the same, what the hell possessed you to do that?
Yeah, so the first time I ran it, I always remember watching and seeing the first ever spine race take part, and there was just a handful of people, and I think only 2 people just finished the first spine race, and I was sort of into my running a little bit. Then I enjoyed the fitness and endurance side of things, and I thought, I thought I was fit, but I thought I'll never be able to do anything like this. And eventually, a couple of years ago, I thought I might as well stop being a poopy pants and get it done.
Do it.
Well, yeah.
So 2 years later, you've now completed 2 spines.
Yeah.
So you did one in the first year,
right.
and then last year was your second spine.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to the first year because it was after the first one where we obviously knew each other before that, but we had conversations about coaching. And you told me some stories when we were trekking that day, over 2 days in the peaks, about that spine, and I was just, I guess, I was in awe of how people get through it, and I always was, but then when I heard the details, I couldn't quite believe the extremes that people go to. So my first question, Dave, is what took you by surprise in year one, and what were the biggest challenges? So we'll start off with the surprises, and then we'll go to your biggest challenges that you faced.
Yeah, so you to me, so the surprises, probably the sleep. I always think the sleep's the hardest thing on the spine, just managing the sleep. The sleep and the weather. The sleep and the weather's the main challenging things, I think, on the spine to overcome, really.
Because you're quite open with me as a coach, and you tell me that you don't sleep much in the days, but you're saying even that was a surprise to you, how much that affected you.
It was, yeah. So ever since I've been a little kid, I've never slept through a full night ever in my entire life. I wake up every hour, bang on the hour every hour, every night. I'm just sort of used to it now, and I thought that's perfect sort of sleep for the spine, but I did struggle with sleep on the spine.
And that for me is a really interesting coaching point, because I listen to some coaches online, or certainly athletes, and they'll say, "Oh, you need to do like sleep training for the spine and things like that."
Yeah, you can't do any sleep training.
No. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. Is like if you deprive yourself of sleep going in, you're probably in a worse position.
Well, yeah, you are. Yeah, definitely.
And you're just going to knacker yourself.
Yeah.
So.
You just have to play it. You just have to take it as it comes. To be fair.
So how much, just to give us an idea, how much do you think you slept in year one, roughly?
Yeah, so year one, over 5.5 hours over 7 days. That's 5.5 hours.
It's brutal, isn't it, that?
Yeah.
It's brutal. And if we compare that just for, I guess, everyone's benefit at home, the winner this year just gone. So the winner in January of 2024, Jack Scott, set a new spine record.
Yeah.
He actually smashed it, didn't he, out the park?
Yeah.
And he also, I think, smashed the sleep record for the least sleep.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not promoting this, by the way, because, people sit on either side of the fence here, don't they, as to whether this is healthy for you or not. But it is an unbelievable achievement. So how many hours or minutes were we looking at for Jack?
Yeah, so I think Jack Scott, he had about 20 minutes sleep, to be honest with you. Yeah, 20 minutes.
It's incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But he got the job done very quickly, didn't he?
Quickly, yeah.
He kind of changed the game with the spine, and I know there's a few top ultra runners now looking at it saying, "Oh, actually, can we shave some time off that?" But it shows how the sport's progressed so much. But then one other thing I want to touch on is kind of that 7-day cut-off dropout rate. How high do we usually see that in the spine?
So dropout rate of 50% dropout rate.
It's massive.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Probably most cases hypothermia, really.
Wow.
The cold weather. So that's people not having the correct kit or just moving too slow to be able to stay warm.
And we spoke a lot about this when we went into year 2. What are you out there for? Are you out there for speed? Are you out there for getting it completed? Because I think this is where a lot of the elites, they do tread a fine line, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
They carry less, they want to be light, they go fast to start. And I think that's why we see such a high dropout rate, even with the elites, don't we, in this race?
Yeah, definitely, yeah, definitely.
So we obviously had that conversation after year 1. And you said, I've entered the spine again in year 2. And anyone who's thinking about entering the spine, you've got to be pretty quick at getting in, haven't you?
Oh, you do, yeah. Well, I think every year it's sold out within 30 seconds.
Wow.
So I had Amanda on. She's better on the keyboard than me, so Amanda got me in.
And what I find absolutely unbelievable about this is such a hard challenge, absolutely brutal, in the middle of winter, and people can't get enough of it. It's like it sells out so quickly. And I think, Tom Evans came on the pod early in the year, and he was saying that to me in person, that's one of his bucket list kind of things is the spine, and even he's struggling to get in. So it's not like if you're one of the best trail ultra runners in the UK, if not the best, you can just rock up and get in. It's not like that, is it?
No, it's just the fastest on the keyboard. To be fair,
I like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not a cheap race either, is it?
No. So I think it's just short of £1,200.
Wow.
And then obviously, if you haven't got a kit, you're going to be spending another £1,000 on good kit if you want good kit.
Yeah.
Really.
So it's not a cheap hobby, running. People might think it is, but certainly the spine isn't. But it's fair to say that a lot of those costs go towards the health and safety of the race, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Mountain rescue and all the volunteers and things on course.
Yeah, definitely.
Brill. Before we head into part 2 of the pod, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Sunto, who continue to sponsor the New Levels Coaching podcast in 2024. Remember, Sunto stands for adventure, and we are absolutely delighted to be on this adventure with them for the remainder of 2024 and looking forward into 2025. I continue to use my Sunto Race S watch. I have a lot of questions from people about the watch's features and what I like about it. For me, I'm using Zone Sense to help me inform my training, to make sure I'm training smarter, so hopefully I can race faster. But what I do love about the watch is its maps feature. It's far better than my previous watch, and I love taking it out on the trails and exploring those routes using my navigation on my map to help me around those particularly tricky points. I also like the fact that I can set up different running activities on my watch and have different data screens depending on the activity that I choose. So I set those up personally on my mobile phone, I sync them all to my watch, and then I just select the activity that suits me best before I head out on the run that I'm on that particular day. Sunto have had some great deals over Black Friday, and they continue to push those deals in December and beyond. So head on over to the Sunto website and find out what they've got on offer. And if you've got any questions, feel free to drop us a line. Okay, let's head over to part 2 of the pod and let's find out a lot more about the Spine Race 2025. So let's touch on those kind of people on the course, the volunteers, the different aid stations that are out there. So firstly, like, how often do you see people in that setting, Dave? So it's not like your typical aid stations, is it, where you just rock up, there's a few sweets and those sort of things. No. What do things look like on the Spine?
Yeah, so again, the aid stations, the checkpoints are every 50 miles. So every 50 miles you're gonna go into a nice warm building with lots of enthusiastic sort of volunteers and helpers who really look after you. So it's always a nice warm building to go into. They take all your kit off and things like that, all your shoes, and take your bag off you and everything like that. You can have a shower. You can have a shower in the checkpoints. You can have some nice warm food. You can eat, and then you can go. Mainly they are sort of bunkhouses, so they have proper beds in as well, so you can get a little bit of shut eye as well. But you mean they do really just look after you. I have to be honest. There is a couple of main checkpoints where it is super sort of cramped, if you know what I mean. So if you arrive there when there's the main part of the race, it is quite hard to sort of get settled and get comfortable, especially in the sleep. So sometimes you're best just checking in and then sleeping outside on the trail, to be fair.
And that's one thing we looked at, isn't it? And I know that's going to sound mental for people listening in.
Yeah.
It's like, hang on, there's a bunkhouse, and you're going outside and sleeping outside.
Yeah, definitely. You have to mean, cause if you go in the dormitories, the doors are just opening up all the time.
Yeah.
Every sort of 5 minutes, people are just coming in and out. People are just sort of just when they can't get comfortable, moving around, turning the lights on and things. So you are best just really going and sleeping under a tree somewhere.
And we obviously looked at spots, and you did some recce's, and you found some places to sleep, whether it's shooting cabins or whatever it was, good places to sleep. Yeah. But I think it's also worth noting here, and this is just a question from me because I've heard it from other races before, particularly over in America. Is there an element that's going through your mind where you're thinking, actually, I might get a bit too comfortable in there as well? It's a bit warm, it's a bit cozy. Do you want to kind of keep that roughness to it so that you don't get too comfortable in that setting as well?
To be honest, the first two spines, I have sort of taken advantage of everything they sort of offer you. So I've always had a nice warm shower, put a nice full set of dry clothes on, had a meal, had a sleep. Used to mean, because the first two times I did really want to just get a completion. Because at the end of the day, it is a spine race. If you get a completion on the spine race, that means more to me than getting a DNF and things like that. I have been sort of taking advantage and using the time given to me to enjoy the experience of the spine race.
Yeah, and that was one of the conversations we had, wasn't it, when we went into year two?
Yeah.
You were adamant that you wanted a completion. I guess the big focus that I want to share with the audience is from year one to year two, the thing that you did want to change was the experience that you had out there on course and how you recovered off the back of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So one thing that we looked at was, I guess tactics of not going out too fast at the start, which you kind of fell into the trap of in year one. Bound to get excited. So that caused some issues with cramping. But also late on in the race, we had a bit of a motto. What's the word I'm looking for? A bit of a mantra. And I said, become the hunter. Don't be the hunted. Don't let everyone be hunting you down. Become that hunter. Because the year before, late on, you started to suffer a little bit, particularly with the mind. I'd like you to go into a little bit of detail about that, because I think it's incredible how you managed to get through.
So on year one, mainly down to the sleep deprivation, hallucinations always start kicking in. Not normally on night two, but I did manage to get through to night three before I started hallucinating. So I think it was a mile 70. I teamed up with my pal Johnny on the first spine. So from mile 70 onwards, me and Johnny sort of stuck together and buddied up and finished the race together. So by sort of day three, the hallucinations were really sort of starting to kick in. So and again on the Pennine Way, it isn't all signposted. You do have to navigate a lot of the Pennine Way as well. So if one person's hallucinating, the other person's navigating, and you're just taking in turns between the hallucinations, to be fair. So you mean some sections, I was hallucinating for like 20 hours, 30 hours at a time, non-stop hallucinations. They're just coming at me for 30 hours.
What sort of things are you seeing?
So I always see the same things. I always see old Victorian, or just old back in the day sort of things. So used to mean there were sections. Say for example, on the last bit on the Cheviots, on the last one. So the Cheviots is the last section on the spine. It's a marathon. It normally takes anywhere between, I don't know, the elites will probably do it in 6 hours. An average person like me might take 15 hours to do a marathon across the Cheviots. So, for example, on the Cheviots, on the left-hand side on the Cheviots, I could see a nice coastal town with the beach and cliffs and birds, seagulls and things. Nice day. Well, it was in the middle of the night as well. So the left-hand side was in the daylight, and the right-hand side was an old big Victorian town. And I was physically walking through the streets of this Victorian town. I could physically open the doors and walk around the buildings. Just bizarre.
So we've got middle of the night.
Yeah.
In the middle of the mountains.
Yeah.
And you've got beach and sunshine on one side. But you're, in the meantime, in this little Victorian village so you can, like you say, open, shut doors, see people.
Yeah.
I mean, the obvious question here is, how do you continue to navigate? And are you relying on other people who you've buddied up with, like yourself and Johnny? Are you using each other to help? And how do you come through those spells in the race?
Yeah, so it used to mean by the time you're on the Cheviot, you're just used to the hallucinations. I just know you just know you are hallucinating. So me and Johnny were hallucinating at the same time. So there wasn't anyone to take over from the navigation, to be fair. So we was navigating the Cheviot, but we was navigating through a Victorian town. so
you're kind of still navigating.
Yeah.
You're navigating the same path. The features are just different.
Yeah, the features are different. But we were on the. I did have my handheld GPS, so I was following that. But it's just bizarre how you can physically go in an old building and walk around the building. It's just bizarre.
It shows the power of the mind, doesn't it? Yeah. And what happens with that sleep deprivation.
And then a little bit further on, I did mention it to you before, near the end of the race, I could physically see someone pulling my cord behind me. And I turned round, and I think it was a small version of me, a mini me behind me. And I remember physically screaming, and I turned round, there was me as a small boy behind me. And every time I turned round, he was just following me. And it did speak to me, but I can't remember what he said to me. But they do say if the hallucinations start talking to you, that's it.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Wow, but you're not the only one either, because I know a lot of people suffer with them in these types of challenges and races. But with that one in particular, and this is going a little bit deep, but I do want to go back to the past.
Yeah.
Is there an element of little Dave's there pulling you back, saying, you can't do this, Dave, you're going to find this too tough? Do you think there's a bit of subconscious there from your past of little Dave saying, you're not tough enough to do this, but you're then pulling forward?
Yeah. I think it is from the past, but I don't think it was sort of saying I couldn't do it. I think it was the other way around. I think it was, but like I said, I can't really remember what it was saying, but I think it was sort of telling me I can.
Nice.
Sort of do it, if you know what I mean, because we was really pushed for time. We only had 5 hours left to get to the end for the cut-off, or we would have been pulled out of the race. So I think in my head it was telling me I could.
Amazing.
I could do it.
Yeah, so again, it's full circle.
So hopefully I'll meet him again.
Yeah, see him again the same time in January each year. It's like Father Christmas when he comes round once a year. Yours is just done for the spine race. Right, well, I want to go on to this year because I want to go into a little bit of detail around this. And we've had the conversation this year. We've not quite gone into the race plan yet, but you've made it quite clear to me, look, Lewis, I've got 2 completions now. I'd like to think about shaving a little bit of time off. Although in year 2 you were faster.
Yeah, a little bit faster. Yeah, a little bit faster.
6-7 hours faster. And it's fair to say you came off year 2 better.
Yeah,
as
definitely.
well.
Yeah,
Straight back into training after a bit of rest. But this year you said, look, we're looking at knocking potentially a day off, 24 to 12 hours off to get that extra day, which is a big challenge. So some of the things that I wanted to touch on how we might do that, because people again might be listening to this thinking, well, that's mental. You can't just knock a day off. But there are things that you can do, and one thing that we've started to look at is your pack and the weight that you carry, because obviously that does make a big difference. So I'm going to get you to show the audience who are watching on YouTube some of the stuff that you've got, because you've kindly brought your stuff with you. But in terms of the weight of the pack, what was the weight of your pack last year, and compare that to this year, what you're going to go in with?
Yeah, so the weight of my pack last year was just under 10 kilograms, and this time 5 kilos. So I've shaved it in half, really, the weight.
Yeah, which is massive.
And again, the first 2 years I had a 30-litre pack, and I'm down to a 20-litre sort of race vest style pack.
So more comfortable, I imagine.
More comfortable, yeah.
Lighter.
Lighter.
So one of the key questions here then is, how have you done that?
Yeah. So again, I haven't sort of skimped on kit really. I've just save weight on like my sleeping pad. To be fair, I didn't really use my sleeping pad in the previous years because I was just sort of taking trail naps. I was just climbing into my bivy bags. If you're on a bunch of heather or something like that, you don't need a sleeping mat. So I've sort of skimped on the sleeping pad. Apart from that, on my sleeping bag, I've got a new sleeping bag, so my sleeping bag's a little bit lighter. But apart from that, everything else is similar. I think the 2 previous years I have sort of, to be on the safe side because of the weather, I've always put extra kit in as well, extra layers in. So I won't have the extra layers this time, but I didn't really use them in the first 2 years anyway. I just wanted to have them in the bag just in case, really.
As a safety mechanism almost.
That's right, yeah, that's right.
So there is an element of learning here, isn't there?
Yeah, of course there is, yeah, definitely.
And I think that's an important point for anybody, no matter what challenge or race they're doing is, I always think it's important to reflect after and write things down immediately because sometimes you forget, don't you?
Yeah.
What did I use? So the other thing we've also looked at is fueling.
Fueling,
and you've been much better this year recording even on like your recce days and you're out at the weekend doing a big training recce. What you're right. So what is it that you've been practicing fueling wise, and what will you eat out there?
Yeah. So again on the previous years, it is good to have whole. I used to have a lot of whole foods, a lot of the dehydrated meals. I used to stop and make one of those. Maybe every marathon distance, I'd have 1,000 calorie hit in a dehydration meal, and have like just proper sandwiches and things like that. But now on the big training days and like the one on the weekend, I'm sort of fueling a bit more like I'm doing a running race with gels and chews. I am still taking the whole foods, but I'm fueling more on the gels and things, to be honest with you.
So it's a little bit more consistent with the fueling.
Yeah, a bit more consistent. Yes, I'm trying to get more. I'm trying to get the right amount of carbs into my system every hour rather than waiting maybe a few hours and then eating again.
Yeah.
Which probably slowed me down in the previous races, really.
Yeah, so what we've looked at there is kind of like consuming more foods on the go, which is easier to do with your gels and your drinks and chews. But also then making sure whole foods are still in there because we know you respond well to them as well. So there's an element of time saving there.
Yeah, I mean, so again, once you're reaching your main checkpoints at every 50 miles, there is proper whole foods there, proper meals. So you can have 2 or 3 portions and you can really fuel up at them aid stations, which should really fuel you up to the next aid station, really, if you're taking gels in between and things like that, really.
Definitely, if you're getting those calories in there. And practicing all this is super important, and the training is something I do want to touch on, because I think the mistake I've seen a lot of people make when they go to these ultra challenges and maybe they don't have a coach in their corner is they're like, right, I'm going to be out for 7 days, so I need to go and do like 4 days straight with no sleep, and they just absolutely kill themselves in training. Like my approach is very much I guess it is a running program still, because I think the fitter you are, the better chance you've got. So we want to keep that element of fitness there. But then particularly the spell you're in now, it's what I refer to as a specificity spell. Everything is really specific. And specific for the spine, for me as a coach, means a lot of hiking, a lot of time on feet, a lot of slower running on the hills, and in that environment you're going to experience. And now it's when everyone else is whinging about this weather we've got at the minute, you're loving life because you're like, this is perfect.
That's the best time to go out.
Yeah.
If there's a storm coming, you need to get your kit on and get out there.
And you, all I keep seeing at the minute from your final surge updates are perfect spine training. You know, mindset's in a great place here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So give people a bit of an insight into kind of the stuff you've been doing, particularly maybe the weekend that's just gone.
Yeah. So the weekend we went and did a route called the Heriot Way in the Yorkshire Dales. So it's a 50-mile route. So the Heriot Way is to go back to the TV program, the All Creatures Great and Small program. So it's a bit of a
showing your age here, Dave. Careful.
Yeah. So the Heriot Way, it doesn't sound hard, the Heriot Way, but it was quite challenging. To be fair, I'd probably say it's a lot harder than the first bit of the spine. The spine sprint is definitely hard. There were like 7,500 feet of climbing. A similar terrain as the spine race. So it used to mean, so there were me and then 4 other sort of spiners. going out. Nothing too serious, just taking his time and just like a proper spine sort of pace and practicing as fueling, as clothing, as packs, and then we and then practicing with the sleep systems a bit further into the route and having a little bivvy out, cooking and things like that.
Do you know what I love about it? Well, loads of things I love about it, but the biggest thing is I saw the pictures coming through and like the community feel of that and people embracing on the same challenge and getting together beforehand to help each other. I think that captures everything about the spirit of like the race and how people help each other. Whereas you don't massively get that in like track racing.
No.
You have training partners, but you'd never see training groups coming together, helping each other. So I love that. But then the other thing I loved about it is that like you are practicing everything, and I think if anybody's thinking about doing these challenges, this is one of the biggest things I would recommend is just make sure everything works. And it's comfortable.
You have to because even at the weekend, I still found a few things what didn't sort of work 100%, so I can sort of change them and just tweak a few things now, and then I'm sort of ready to go then, aren't I?
Ready to go.
Ready to.
Well, we have slimmed the pack down. Let's have a look at the pack. So we'll pull that up. So you were training with this at the weekend. That was another thing. Training wise, I think it's important to train with what you're going to race in.
So this is the new pack. So it's a Montane Gecko 20. So in previous years, I've had the Montane 30 litre, which is obviously a lot bigger and heavier. This is more like a race style sort of vest. So you can turn around. You can get your soft flasks in there. Plenty of storage for gels and things.
Is this your little mascot? I love that.
Yes, I brought this little fella this time. So I thought if I'm hallucinating, he might come alive and keep me company.
I love it.
So I might be able to talk to him a little bit.
I love it. Well, the first thing that strikes me is, and Gemma's going to hate me for saying this, one, you're going to go out there for 7 days. All your cooking equipment's in there, all your clothing's in there. Like, you want to see Gemma's bags when she goes for 2 days in the lakes. Suitcase, big North Face bag. So it's definitely something to work on there, Gemma, but we'll get to it. But it's mad that everything goes in that. This is it, isn't it?
This is it, yeah, everything. I've got the full spine kit in there. Everything is in there. Then I do, for my nutrition, I'll use like a race belt. So I'll put all my nutrition in the race belt because it is super roomy, and I can keep my poles in the race belt as well.
Should we show that? Have you got that down there, Dave? You've got that. So if you are listening to this on kind of Spotify or, wherever, Apple Podcasts, whatever it might be, you can check this out on YouTube. Dave's kindly brought his stuff in there. So at the minute, he's showing his poles that are on the back of his belt that's going to go around his waist.
So my Lecky poles there, so they just go through the back there. So it saves popping them on your pack. You can easily take in and out of there, and then plenty of storage. Just in the belt there for I can even get a couple of soft flasks in there. The weekend I had about 12 gels in there, and other nutrition and things like that. So the perfect sort of combination, I think, really. Nice.
So you got the belt and the bag.
And the bag, yeah.
It's the main thing.
Yeah.
Let's touch quickly on footwear as well, because you're going to have a footwear change. You're going to start off in kind of standard trail shoes.
Yeah. So I'm going to start off in my normal sort of what I've been training in, just my trail running shoes, because I think for the first sort of 50, 100 miles, I'm going to be fresh. I'll be able to move a little bit faster with the trail running.
Fresh for 50 to 100 miles. I love it.
and then after once I do start slowing down and start doing more sort of hiking and things like that, and I'm changed to my running boots. So these are the Scarpa Rebel runs. So it's got like a Polar Tech upper. It's got the Bose system as well. So everyone finds by the end of the spine race, the feet normally swell up 2 sizes bigger. So the good thing about the Bose, you can just release it. So when your feet are swelling, you can just release it and tighten it a bit. If you got things with the laces, it's a little bit harder to do. It's a bit tighter on your feet. And again, most people experience calling like snowballs on the laces, like big frozen snowballs on the laces. They can't undo the laces, and with the Bose system, you can just pull it out and it undoes.
Nice.
And it's like I said, it's got Polar Tech upper, so it's nice and warm. Nice warm boot, is it?
So they go on when it gets a little bit tougher.
They do, yeah.
The pace slows a little bit down. More likely to see more extreme conditions.
I could start off in those and keep those on, but I think for the first sort of duration, I'm best going in some proper trail running shoes and wearing waterproof socks with them.
Brilliant. Well, there's a bit of an insight into the kit. I guess the final point I want to touch on is obviously you start on January the 12th, I believe, on the Sunday. Before that, there's a few different distances that kick off in the winter spine. There's obviously the sprint. There's the Challenger South and the Challenger North.
Yeah.
Amanda will go the day before you.
Yeah, on the Challenger South.
And the Challenger South. And to bring people into the picture, the Challenger South is the southern part of the course.
It is, yeah.
So half of the course, which is in the south.
Yeah, that's it.
And then there is the Challenger North as well.
Challenger North, yeah.
Which is the northern part of the course.
Yeah.
But you're doing the full thing, the south and the north.
Yeah.
And you start a day after.
The day after, yeah, on the Sunday.
So we were speaking earlier, you said one of the biggest challenges this year is going to be the day before because Amanda's going to set off and you're going to be dot watching.
I'll be dot watching, which is addictive. Most people know.
Yeah. And what we mean by dot watching, for those of you who've maybe never tuned into the spine and want to this year, you can get the tracker. A tracker's great. You can send messages on there to people. They've got the photos on there. You can click on, see the athletes that you're following. But ultimately, you just follow the dot on this tracker the whole way up. And obviously, it's there for safety.
Of course it is,
So the race organisers always know where you are.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's a great tool for people to engage with, the people in the race and also to keep an eye on things as well. Because if you want to go out and find someone and say hello to them, it's a great tool as well.
Of course it is, yeah. And I think for the race as well, because you've got a tracker on you. If you are somewhere really isolated by yourself in a storm, people are watching you anyway, so you do feel a bit safer.
You know it's there, that bit of comfort. Yeah. So Amanda goes on the Saturday. You're going to be a little bit nervous with that, and you don't sleep well at the best of times. No. Not much sleep the night before.
No, probably not. No, well, if Amanda ends up, if she buddies up with someone, it'll be a lot better for me.
Yeah, and that buddying up thing again, something that I love about the race is people do tend to help each other, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Any of your buddies from previous years? Is John going to be back, for example?
Yeah. So John is back for his third spine finish, hopefully. So me and Johnny thought it'd be nice if we could get 3 finishes straight in a row if we could do. So we're both going for a triple spine finish. Then I do know quite a few other folk who are coming back. People who haven't completed in the previous years who want to do it this time. Yeah, there's people from Japan coming over who we've met, and America and things. So yeah, plenty of people. It's about like a big reunion.
Yeah. The new year, new you reunion, and the new year. New year, same spine race, different challenge though. And that is the beauty of the race. It's going to present all different sorts of challenges. Weather can be different,
definitely.
Underfoot conditions can be different. So it might be the same route, it might be the similar people, but it'll be a totally different challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Well, best of luck, Dave.
Yeah,
I hope it goes well. We'll be out there to support this year. We're kind of looking at our options. And as you said, you'd prefer, I think this sums up you as a person. You're like, if you're going to come out, I'd prefer you to go and see Amanda because I'm more worried about her.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've done it twice before. So that'll be music to her ears, hopefully. But hopefully we can get out on course and see you this year. Just for tracking purposes, so obviously people can track the race itself on the Spine tracker.
On the Spine, yeah. And
if you go onto their website, it directs them there and get all the information. But what about following you and your adventures? Where can they find you and maybe the business on social media or online?
Yeah. So on my own sort of my personal sort of Instagram things, Beyond Wild UK, and then I have got my guiding business as well, which is Beyond Wild. So similar to my personal, but it's just Beyond Wild.
So Beyond Wild UK, and you're great at photography, Dave. Is really good at posting some really nice shots in nature. So if you want to follow Dave, then do so. And if you want to check out some of the work that he does, I would strongly recommend it. As I say, Gemma once got me a birthday present which involved Dave, Gemma and I going out into the peaks and having a wild camp, and it was just a brilliant experience learning more about navigation and safety and how to fend for yourself in nature, and it was absolutely fascinating. But if you're listening to this and maybe you work for charities or clubs and you're thinking about these types of ideas, then the company does a cracking job of making sure that you have everything you need if you're going to go and do something like a trek challenge, which is becoming a lot more popular. Well, thanks again, Dave.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah,
I've thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to seeing how you get on. And if you are thinking about taking on a challenge of this sort, I hope you've taken a lot of inspiration from that and some useful things to take away, because there's been some little bits of gold in there that will help you with preparing for any type of challenge like the spine. But for now, that is a wrap for 2024. This will come to your ears between December and January, and the spine will be on the 12th of Jan. So hopefully you tune into this before Dave gets off on his adventure. Hope you've enjoyed all the podcasts in 2024. We'll be back in 2025 with a lot more. In the meantime, enjoy your training, good luck of your racing, and we'll see you all again very, very soon.
Wanna hear you go.